Welcome! Whee! It is Hug Nation time. Thanks for being here, whether live or archived or in intention. Thank you for adding your vibration to the recalibration. Today, I want to talk about karma, 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 chameleon. Come and go, we come and go. Everybody! Loving what be easy. Okay. I will have a karmic debt for singing that to you. I gotta say that karma has not been something that has resonated with me for most of my life. And very recently I was just reading something and it kind of hit me in a new way. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about karma and how my perception of it has shifted and how it serves me better now. I mean, karma is something that is talked about in many types of faiths. It's part of Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism. It's a tiny mention in the Bible. Matthew talks about, we reap what we sow. What is karma? My understanding of it was that what you reap is what you sow. That there are cause and effect. There are consequences. Whatever you do in the world, you receive that back unto you. And I think that's a really beautiful thought. To me, it seemed a little too neat, quite frankly. It just seems like it all ties up with a bow, and it makes like something that would make a human brain feel good about, yes, everything's fair. But I was kind of raised with the understanding that life is not fair. And that's just the way it is. At least it's not fair as we understand it. That we do not have the vantage point to understand the fairness of the universe. And so an idea that it all, equals out just felt too simple. So, and I guess there's something about the way that people would sometimes depend on karma to equal things out. If you were wronged by somebody, feel like, well, karma's going to get them later. Karma's going to bite them in the ass. And I guess I kind of think that in that sense, it just doesn't, it's too neat to just depend on this cosmic balancing of things. At least in that way. In some ways, I think that, if somebody wrongs you, if somebody does something insensitive or mean, then I don't necessarily think that the universe is going to punish them for that thing. I think that the fact that they do it in the first place means that they have in them some lack of balance. And so they have to live with that inequality, that struggle, that whatever it is that's going on in them. That's part of them. And so they're actually living in this state of lack of balance. And that if you are making actions and taking steps and affecting the world from this selfish place, then you are living on a very shallow level of experience, and you do not have the depth, the true pleasure, the true joy of being in alignment. And so I think that that's, a part of the way I perceived karma is that if you are doing things that hurt people, then it's impossible to be totally in alignment. And so your experience of life is really not at its highest, not at its fullest. And that's a part of the equaling out of everything. And the other thing about, if people say, I hope karma's going to get them for what they've done, it misses the point that the things that happen to you, it's not because they're mean and that's why this happens to you and then their karma is going to get them. If something happened to you, that's your karma. And this person is an angel or agent of the universe that is allowing you to have this experience. And one of the reasons why I struggle with the idea of karma is because I do not really resonate with a strict explanation of reincarnation. You know, the idea that we come back as, you know, a series of lives or lifetimes. And when people talk about past lives, that's not something that has ever resonated with me. I'm not saying that I don't believe it or that it's not true. I'm just saying that at this point, it's not something that is anything more than an idea to me. It's never felt really true. I could change that tonight. I could have a dream or a meditation that makes me feel like, oh, wait, no, I was once a baker in France, and no wonder I love croissants. It all makes sense now. But my belief about life, after death, after life, is a little bit less specific in that we have single life after single life after single life. I believe that we are receivers of consciousness, and we receive a fractionalized portion of cosmic consciousness. So there is a massive broadcast station outside of this dimension that sends out like a TV channel, and then in a human body we receive a tiny, tiny fraction of that one consciousness. So the one consciousness is the one, which we are in that state, and we experience. There is no good, no bad, no black, no white. There's just one. And then in human consciousness, we have the gift of duality, the gift of good, bad, black, white. And it is in that duality that we allow ourselves to experience journeys and adventures and lessons. And so it's in that sense that karma has started to make more and more resonance with me, which is that we are here in this human consciousness experience of life to learn lessons. And those lessons are whatever we need to learn. And so if we do something, we wrong someone, we don't get it paid back to us, like payback. We give it to ourselves as an opportunity to learn. If we've wronged someone, then clearly we do not understand or appreciate why that would be a bad thing. So we need to experience it in some way to shift and grow and learn. And so that idea of karma as all of the suffering is not our payback, but our education. And if we are experiencing something and it is painful or suffering for us, that is because we're in class, until we let go, until we forgive, until we surrender to a point of being able to not be stirred up, to not be bothered by whatever the lesson is. Then we can move on. Until we forget it, in which case we need to learn it again. And I don't know about you, but my life, as I grow and go through the decades, it starts to get kind of eerie at times how many times I see the same lesson happen. Sometimes the same people. Meaning, a partner or a girlfriend that then, things go bad, we fight, we break up. And then 3 years later, I find myself in a relationship that's going bad, and it's like, whoa, she's taller this time, but I've been down this road before. This has happened before. And it's like, yes, that's my karma teacher saying, you're going to keep taking this class till you get it. I don't want anything good. And I think that it's that process of coming to peace with these struggles. The suffering, there's a great, let me see, the book that I was reading that was really shifting things in me was by Dick Sutphin. He's, a little backstory on why I got into this guy. Someone gave me a meditation MP3. No, not meditation. It was a hypnosis MP3. And I loved this guy's voice, the way that he spoke. just put me into a state of sleeping. And so I would listen to it before I went to bed sometimes. I actually, at first, was not even sure what the hypnosis message in it was. I just liked the guy's voice so much, and it put me to sleep. I was like, oh, I love it. And then, and then I looked into what the actual, hypnosis message was, and it was get by on 4 hours sleep. And I realized why occasionally when I would go to bed, listen to this thing, I would wake up like 4 hours later. And that kind of was a head trip for me, because I've never had a hypnosis experience, so that it's not a part of, I believe in hypnosis, absolutely. I've seen it, you see people get medical procedures, or you see people on stage, being stiff as a board or whatever. Hypnosis actually is one of the two things, hypnosis and placebo, that are the glaring examples that there is a mind-body biology connection, that it's just science. It's not some foo-foo karma thing. It's science. And I love that. They've done, put someone under hypnosis and say, can you pick up this glass of water? Oh, by the way, it weighs 2 tons. And someone's like, yeah! And if they believe that they can't pick up the water, their muscles cannot do it. So just based on that, how important it is to be aware of how you think about things, and where your optimism is and where your pessimism is. Because if you think you cannot lift the glass, you cannot. Anyway, so I decided to look into some more things that Mr. Sutphin had recorded. He was kind of like a guru of New Thought stuff in, I think, the 80s. And his voice is so amazing. And I was listening to this thing, it's called The Oracle Within. On Amazon, I think it's called the 125 Most Important Metaphysical Principles. And it just, one after another, was blowing me away. But there's a bunch of things on karma in there that change the way I think about it. Neither God nor the lords of karma create your suffering. You and you alone are responsible. There is no one to blame for anything. If karma is self-created balance, then everyone who has ever made your life difficult has done so because you needed the experience as a karmic test or learning experience. How could you blame others for what you set up? When you respond to these trials with love, positive thoughts, or compassion, you pass the tests and rise above your karma. If you respond with anger, blame, or negativity, you fail and will have to be tested again sometime in the future. Another section on karmic self-punishment. Self-inflicted karmic problems are subconsciously administered as a teaching tool until you can forgive yourself. But you won't forgive yourself until you know on every level of your body and mind that you've learned your lesson and will never make the mistake again. You can learn through love and wisdom, but you learn the fastest through directly experiencing the consequences of your actions. That's why... okay. You can learn through love and wisdom, but you learn the fastest through directly experiencing the consequences of your actions. So the karma is not punishment. The karma is the most effective self-teaching tool that as divine consciousness we can give our fractional consciousness. You painfully learn that stress, improper diet, and lack of exercise cause illness. But if the undesirable condition isn't too advanced, having the wisdom to change your lifestyle can reverse the situation. You painfully learn that manipulating other people to get what you want results in relationship problems. But through learning what doesn't work, you learn how to master relationships. And I think that to think about the injustice in the world, and how is it possibly fair that I live in this beautiful place where I have most of my freedoms, and some people are born into an environment where they have no advantage and struggle with basic health issues. It's hard for me to accept that as just part of the way things are, unless I get into a really deep spiritual philosophical state where I understand that we are all part of the one, and every human experience that is happening is another fractional piece of the oneness that I am also a fractional piece of. So all of the experiences of consciousness are actually me experiencing it at a single time, a single vantage point. And it is through that single vantage point that I am given the gift of the lessons of that lifetime, even amongst suffering, especially amongst suffering. Now, is that a evolved sense of justification for my state in the world? Maybe. But I really believe that the purpose of our life here is not to fix the world. It's not to rid the world of evil. It's not to stop suffering. It's to learn the lessons. And I think that those lessons are not changing the world. I think that the world is the classroom that allows us to learn the lessons we need to learn. And I think that as we learn them, we find ourselves pulled towards the direction of service, of love, of compassion and connection and forgiveness. And it is as we start to follow our joy, that's the route that we find ourselves in. And when we get obstacles on that path, we get karmic lessons to get us through them. And so that suffering, that pain, is the way that we learn to get to service, to open-heartedness. You know, I tell the story about when I got my old RV, my '83 Winnebago. And I sometimes remind people, or if they want to go on a spiritual quest but don't know of any monasteries to join, buy an old RV, because the first time it breaks down, you're like, fuck! The second time, fuck! Third time, ugh! Sixth time, really? And the 12th time it breaks down, you say, I will get there when I get there. And that is kind of the path of the karmic lesson. Suffering, 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 suffering. Let go. Release. Peace. Okay. Next lesson. I think that I have a resistance to accepting the nice, tidy package of karma. And part of that is because the more I learn about the universe and consciousness and my experience of the universe, the more I recognize how incredibly tiny that awareness is. Between the limited visual and auditory spectrums that human beings can experience, between the limited amount of time that human beings have been in the universe. And so from that place, trying to project out and make statements that explain the universe and explain suffering and consciousness and all these things, it seems challenging. It seems a little too easy. Of course, sometimes the too easy answer is the right one, but it wasn't until this idea of karma as divinely inflicted classrooms that everything makes sense. And there's actually it's not punishment at all. Just like a teacher giving you an assignment isn't punishment. It may feel that way. And actually, that's one of the huge things that I've been thinking a lot about with school, especially as my nephews are starting to get into school and get their homework assignments and being frustrated and starting to feel like the teacher is the enemy. And I can remember thinking that way, that this person whose job it was to be my partner in my education, I thought of them as the inflictor of suffering. And how is that any different than we have that relationship with our divine selves, and we think of, oh, God is punishing us or the universe is punishing us, when really it's our teacher. And if we can shift that perspective so that we see that all that is happening is part of our lesson plan, that in a deep sense we created for ourselves, that turns the suffering into something different. You wouldn't describe, going rock climbing as suffering. It might be challenging, but it's something that you do because you want to overcome the obstacle. And our challenges in life can be the exact same way. Big part of that is the story that you tell around it. And allowing the experience to not be the obstacle, but instead be the experience. So thank you for being a part of this experience. I can only assume that this karmic reward is the affirmation of this path, choosing to follow our hearts and pursue our highest selves. So let's anchor it with a Hug Nation hug. Grab yourselves by the shoulders. Be grateful for this human experience, this body with all of its lessons of suffering and joy, which is not our punishment, but our classroom. The entire world, a classroom for consciousness, for our divine selves to get more in line with pure love. And we're always going to be midway on the path, always recorrecting, always realigning. And we just have to forgive ourselves and allow that to happen. Be present, align with love, have integrity, and find ourselves learning the lessons we need to get more and more in alignment. And we got to forgive ourselves when we get out of alignment, get angry, start blaming, and also forgive everyone else for when they get in that state as well. Hopefully we can feel it inside enough that we can recognize and get exactly what they're feeling and have compassion. So as we face our challenges, as we learn our lessons, let's try to be grateful for the opportunities of growth. Let's try to be grateful for the classwork, for our fellow students and teachers, as we learn what we need to learn to get greater feelings of peace. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the love warriors, happy Hug Nation. Thank you for being you, for having the courage to face your lessons, have the courage to be who you are in the face of so many voices that discourage that miracle from happening. Thank you. I love you. Namaste.
You only live once. Enjoy the color.